Hey,
Hi, how are
how are
you?
you? Good. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good, good. Excited
Good.
to chat today. Let me get you
Yeah,
set
well,
up.
happy Tuesday.
Yeah, happy to. Oh, it's Tuesday. Oh, I've been thinking it was Monday all day, so you just gave
Oh,
me
you
great
got a
news.
bonus.
Right?
Bonus.
Yeah.
That happened to me last week. It was like finding 20 bucks in my pocket.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's the best feeling. Man, we're gonna have a good day.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us, Sarah. Welcome to the Toolbox series, Prince Lionheart. Our objective in life as a brand for almost 50 years has been creating tools to help parents in life's grand improvisation, which is parenting, since we're all kind of winging it. So,
Oh my gosh, you said that perfectly right. I felt like since Jackson was born, so I found out really late that I was pregnant. I found out at 20 weeks. So I've
oh,
just
wow.
been winging it the whole time, and it's turned out fine.
Perfect. You know? Wow, that's amazing. A girlfriend that happened to a girlfriend of mine too. She's kind of like, why am I gaining weight? I don't know. What am I doing?
Yep, that's how I was. And the doctor was like, "Well, we'll just see how far along you were." And when we did the sonogram, he had like a full face and everything.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, it was exciting.
Oh my gosh. Well, surprise.
Right? And
Well,
here
that's
we are
exciting.
now.
Yeah. Well, I curious. I would love to hear. We like to start with kind of how everyone came to find their path, and you along the picky eater, nutrition enhanced. I took a look at your Instagram, and I saw some actually things just immediately that I thought, oh, we can totally employ that because every time, without fail, that we go to a restaurant, my kids are so intrigued by the salt and pepper shakers, and of
Hmm.
course, I don't want them, adding salt and pepper to their food. And so I saw your hack about hemp hearts, and I have a bag of hemp hearts in my pantry, not knowing what to do with it. I have chia seeds, not knowing, well, I can make chia pudding. That's, fine, some oat milk and all that. But hemp hearts, I'm like, I don't know. They don't eat salads, so I don't know what to do with them. But you just gave me an awesome little hack.
Good. I'm so glad. Yeah, that's one of our favorites. Anything that they can sprinkle on there.
Yep.
We'll even use broccoli. Like I'll cut off the end of the florets and let him sprinkle that on there. Kids love stuff like that, and it's such a good way to engage them in something they probably wouldn't eat before.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So tell us how you found your way along this path.
All right, so like I said, I found out I was having Jackson really late. I was actually in my last semester of school. I have my degree in nutrition and I'm a certified health education specialist. So I had this baby, and at that time I was a culinary instructor. So I was teaching other kids to cook and working with other kids in the kitchen. And I was like, I'll just start an account and share his feeding experience from the very beginning. So right when he started solids at 6 months is when I started this account. So we'll be coming up on 5 years this Christmas. So I started doing that and it just started growing. People had questions. So I learned how to make infographics. Everything I've learned about social media and website design and everything has been like trial by fire. Like, you just got to
Yeah.
do it because people need to know. So
Yeah.
I just kind of took having this baby I wasn't planning and this degree that I suddenly was like, what am I going to do? I have a baby now, and coupled them together, and Snacks with Jax was born.
That's awesome. What a great story. I love it. I love it. Totally winging it, right?
Yep. Just
Yep.
improving through all of
Yep.
it.
Yep. Well, that's a great story. I love that. So you get people, do you find that most of your people are coming to you when they're starting to feed solids, or are they coming to you kind of along the age of your son Jax now?
It's definitely more of the picky eating. Starting solids, people just want to know how to do it safely. But picky
Sure.
eating is a battle all its own, and it's different with every kid. And every parent that I talk to is like, okay, they ate fine. And then one day they woke up and hated their favorite food and yelled at me about cutting something wrong because they found their words. And I'm like,
Sure.
yep, it's normal. It happens. And we can navigate it all together.
That's awesome. So is it safe to say that Jax is a picky eater?
He at times he can. So I co-parent with his dad, so he goes over there 2 weekends out of the month. And so when he
Hmm.
comes back, it's always a transition into like,
Sure.
this is how things are at our house. So there's definitely times when he can be much more picky, and he is very vocal. I did a reel a couple of weeks ago just explaining exactly how breakfast went for us and his complaints on like one piece of bagel being larger than the other and like not having enough different things on his plate. And I think it's so important for other parents to know that you can have a degree in it and you can teach other people, and you can still have a kid that is like, this is terrible, mom. And sometimes I'll cook things and he's like, mm-mm. Nope, not gonna eat it. And I
No.
taught culinary for many years. So I
Well,
don't
you have
know.
a budding food critic, basically, is what you have.
Exactly. He's gonna have a career thanks to me. So he's,
He's going to be giving the Michelin stars. It's just you may not be the recipient of one of them, Mom.
I won't. He's my harshest critic.
That's really funny. Well, I don't know. So something that I believe to be true, and it could be that I got a fluke of a kid because my firstborn, I never did purees. I never did baby food. He always ate what we ate.
Mhm.
We ate, we still do eat pretty clean. And so, it was a lot of soups because obviously that was easier for him. It wasn't like I was serving steaks, right? My little masticating gummy but as a result we didn't do juice and sugars and stuff like that, and as a result, like, to this day, I mean, we're talking 13 years, he's I believe, and maybe I had nothing to do with it, but I feel like tiny taste buds can be trained, and
Mhm.
he's not the kid who wants the Dairy Queen or whatever. He's like, can I have an apple? And I'm like, really? Like, you've never had Dairy Queen, you want to try it? And he's like, I'd rather have an apple, and it's just interesting. And then I find with, my next, they're all different. And, she's got some hypoglycemia and some, chronic constipation. So it's kind of like we have to keep her fed, but if she doesn't want to eat, then it's like you don't eat your dinner and you're getting a cookie, which is totally backwards, not how I grew up and all that, but
Yep.
you do what you do for each kid. So do you believe, given all that you've been through, that tiny taste buds can be trained?
Oh yeah, I think exposure to foods, the
Yeah.
longer and the more, like you said, if he's never had Dairy Queen, he's not super pumped about going there because he knows what an apple's going to taste like. He knows the
Yeah.
texture, he's familiar with it, and that makes them comfortable. And so I think the more exposures, even though sometimes for parents it's hard when they put something on the plate and it goes uneaten, that
Yeah.
is one step getting closer to learning to like it. Taking a bite and spitting it out, yes, that's frustrating, but that is getting them closer and closer. And I do agree with you. I think, the more you can expose them to certain things, the better it is for them long term. And some kids take longer to learn to like things. I didn't eat salmon until I was like 14, and Jackson's 4, and he asks for it every single week because
Yeah. My
he's
are
seen
like
it a
that.
lot, right?
Totally. Hey, what do you want for lunch? Salmon? I'm like, okay, just don't say that very loud, okay? Because you a little like Ponzi, It's like, come on. It's
Right? I'm
like,
like, you have to pick the most expensive thing.
I
Like,
know,
come
right?
on.
Because everything's going up, and that's not cheap. I bought some today.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah, no, it's so true. Okay, so you believe tiny taste buds can be trained, and that I think is like an interesting concept for parents, because I don't think it's something that people give a lot of thought. I mean, we're always doing our best, and granted, there are days when my kids are like, I'm like, here are the chicken nuggets, they're gluten free, but here are the chicken nuggets,
mm,
but it's, I think it's good to just even think about that okay, they can be trained. So if you're trying to train them for the future, these are the tastes that they're going to like if that's what they eat. If
mm,
that's what they're offered, they're going to eventually like them. Like just yesterday, my daughter, um, she hasn't liked carrots at all in her life. She's tried them. She always spits them out. She never swallows them. And then
mm.
the other day, she wanted to have a picnic on the couch, and I said, "Okay, your little brother's sleeping. Let's go have a picnic on the couch." And I had the colored organic little carrots, the ones that come, the baby carrots.
Yeah.
Thought they were more fun, and guess what? She swallowed that carrot, and she's like, I like carrots. It's like
Isn't that crazy?
times. I've heard that, and I tell my kids, I'm like, it takes your taste buds 10 times to know if you like something.
Yep, it
Probably not
says statistically it's between 15 to 30 exposures to a food
okay.
for kids to learn to like them. And even if they go, long periods of time in between, that can kind of prolong it. But and you hit it perfectly with doing carrots that are different, the multicolored where there's the purple and the white.
Yep.
Changing just one thing can make it go from like a no way to okay, I'll try it today. And then they learn if they like it.
Awesome. All right. So 10 is so last year it's now 15 to 30, which is good because I thought for sure she was not going to be a carrot girl. And also she likes them cooked, but she doesn't like them raw. And now she thinks, she likes them raw as long as they come out of the fun bag
I get
with
it.
all the colored friends, the purple ones, the white ones, the yellow ones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good stuff. All right, well, we had a lot of people chiming in with questions, so let's hit some of them so that everyone can kind of get what they're looking for. Some of them, funny enough, are kind of, a lot of people are interested in hearing about the same stuff. A lot of it comes down to nutrients, right?
Mm.
There's a lot going on with our food these days. There's a lot of picky eaters that, only want Cheerios all day long, or, whatever it is. Are there particular nutrients that we should, as parents, try to focus on, try to keep front of mind if our kids aren't getting them? Are there any tips that you have, whether it's a supplement or whether it's, sneaky food? Like my doctor always told me, it's okay if your kids don't drink milk, just give them the tops of broccoli.
Yep.
That's so much calcium.
Yep.
So do you have any thoughts on that?
Iron is always one that I prioritize with people. Iron-rich foods, there's plant-based and there's heme iron, which comes from meats. You can also get it from plant-based, oats, beans, legumes, stuff like that. And if you eat iron-rich foods in combination with vitamin C-rich foods, so strawberries, oranges, always top of mind, kiwi, those help your body absorb it. So really focusing on an iron-rich food at every opportunity to eat so they can keep their iron levels high. They need that for their blood. That's always when I tell parents to prioritize. Vitamin D is one. I know our kids eat salmon, but not a lot of kids eat salmon or drink vitamin D enriched milk. So if they don't do that, you live somewhere where you don't get a lot of sunlight, a vitamin D supplement is usually something to look into. Talk with your pediatrician about and find one, because that's usually one that a lot of kids are lower in. Vitamin D and iron are ones to prioritize. And there's also iron supplements. That's usually my second option. I always want to go food first, but you can talk to your pediatrician about an iron supplement as well. Those just have a tendency to back them up a little bit. So you want to keep that in mind and serve the fiber-rich foods to help everything make its way through.
Yeah, right. Gotcha. Okay. So actually so in combination, I know that there are some of those foods that they absorb better when they're given with other foods. So iron and vitamin C are good combos. So I was thinking, okay, well, beans and strawberries, that sounds gross. But something that I used to cook for my firstborn was oatmeal. We never sugared it or anything, but we do oatmeal and raisins, which have a ton of sugar, or oatmeal and fresh strawberries, which he loved because it had a little bit of tart too, depending on the strawberries. And so that's a perfect combo of iron and vitamin C.
Yep,
And you
hummus
say
would be a
it's for
good
the
one to
hummus.
think.
Okay.
Hummus and carrots are great, or anything that they'll eat with hummus. Let's see, bell peppers have a lot of vitamin C, so
Okay.
that's great. Another good, easy combination is eggs, whatever way they want to eat them. Boiled eggs are pretty easy to hold, so think boiled eggs and some, orange slices. That's pretty simple. That's an easy one.
Sure.
We like to do oat balls, like mini energy bites. Those
Mm-hmm.
are great where you mix them with a nut butter of whatever choice you want to use and have that with some raspberries. There's so many options out there for doing vitamin C combined. Oh, sorry, my dog is just.
Oh, that's okay. I can't.
Okay,
My
good.
out next to me. This is real life.
It sure is.
We're getting this done while our kids are otherwise engaged. Hopefully. Otherwise, we have our kid coming in the background like we all saw during COVID and all those
Oh, yeah.
televised conference calls.
Jackson loves to make cameos. Thankfully, he's at school right now, so I have.
I love it. All right. So I guess something that in a lot of these toolbox series, we've talked to occupational therapists, pediatric physical therapists, all kinds of folks, speech therapists. I always like to address the question of parents of when should I worry, because as parents, we aren't experts in everything. That's why we find folks like you who are experts in their fields, and we try to just give parents the tools. So when should parents worry about their child's picky eating and possible lack of nutrition?
So the best indicator is going to be their growth curve, and
Okay.
your pediatrician always checks that whenever they go in for their well checks, and so usually they'll let you know if they're falling behind on their growth curve. A lot of parents freak out when they get those numbers, whether it's a really high percentile or a low percentile, But humans come in all shapes and sizes. Being a low percentile isn't bad as long as they're maintaining that curve. Being a
Right.
higher percentile, it's not bad as long as they're maintaining their curve. But if their pediatrician lets you know, hey, they're starting to kind of fall off their curve, this is something we need to be concerned about, that's when you really want to start looking into, okay, what's the reason behind this? Are they not getting a certain nutrient? Are they struggling to eat? Kids who have, there's all sorts of things that can come with picky eating where they get bigger. There's ARFID, which is actually when they have a severe anxiety around eating and things like that. You want to look into a speech therapist or someone who can really help you get in there and figure it out. Sometimes it's the mechanics of eating. If you have a kid that throws up a lot when they eat, it's not something we want, but that's a red
Yeah.
flag for, you need to look into this a little deeper. Are they having difficulty swallowing? Is it something with the mechanics of eating, or is it truly anxiety that needs to be worked through? And that's something that both the child and the parent need help with, because a stressed and anxious adult can't de-escalate a child. So you have to know how to handle yourself around meal times to better
Yeah.
help them at meal times.
I had no idea about some of those things that you mentioned. So nuggets, I swear, nuggets. Listen to my voice. I have
Oh.
tickle going on, but that's okay. We'll power through it. Okay, so we talked about sprinkles in the very beginning of this as a great way to get kids to eat their food, try new foods. For those desperate parents who have tried everything, whether it's sandwich cutters or I actually make my kids little like Martians or at their request. I take requests. Once it was Iron, oh my gosh, what do I do with Iron Man? Raspberries and some yellow for pop and what have you. But I make little creatures and it makes it fun because it ends up being mostly fruits and vegetables. But do you have any tips of how to get kids to try new foods?
Yeah, so that is a great way, making things visually appealing. Kids learn through play. So I know it's really hard as a parent to watch your child play with their food, but it's kind of like if you handed them a blank piece of paper and a crayon, they might scribble on it for a few minutes. But if you give them a prompt, so engaging them with that food, for example, Jackson and I, we have a reel on our page and we do broccoli haircuts, which is where you use your teeth and you trim the florets off of your broccoli, and you can give it all different styles. And so prompting them to do something that's fun makes it so much more exciting. We do raspberry hats on our fingers all the time, and they
Right.
have, just different ways to engage them, whether it's, can you make your meatball jump in its sauce? Can you do this? Letting them play, but with boundaries, right? So like, we're going to play with our food on the plate. We're not going to rub it into our hair or our brother's hair. But giving them prompts to help engage them with food, telling them why you like eating the food. Sometimes I don't even have to ask Jackson to eat something. I just tell him why I enjoy it. I like that it's salty. I like this about it. And getting him to describe those things also
Mhm.
helps prompt him to try things. But you eat first with your eyes. So making things visually appealing, like you said, is such an easy but enticing way to get little kids into their food.
Gotcha. I guess that's without thinking about it. That was kind of the catalyst for we have something called a create plate, which is a clear bottom plate that
Yeah.
has a erase disc that goes behind it, and you can
Mm.
draw whatever, whether it's like good luck today or congratulations. But like I started drawing like trucks and then filling those trucks with whatever food. So the truck shows through and I pile a bunch of berries or nuts or whatever it may be and
Mm.
eat it out of the truck, or they eat their food and then it reveals a picture. And I found that works really well for my kids. And
Yeah.
so we created a product and it ended up, being used for other people. We use them for birthday party place settings too. And that ends up being their gift going home. But those little things, mom hacks. Because
Mm.
the other thing I did is I hate making school lunches.
Mm-hmm.
Is the bane of my existence. I don't know why, but I've always hated it. So I made little bentos that are
Mm-hmm.
little stubby animals that just make it cuter for me to make lunch. And then if the kids enjoy it, great, but mom's happier. So
Yes.
those are
I,
mom hacks for me because I don't know why, but I hate making lunches.
I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I just lunch, it's like one more thing at the end of the day or the
Yeah.
beginning of the day. They're like, oh my gosh, okay, let me throw something together. And we do bento boxes too. And we actually got y'all's bento box set, and Jackson is obsessed with it. And I cannot wait to
Yeah.
fill it up with him because it's so
Makes it more
cute.
fun. Makes
It
it, it's,
does.
yeah. super cute. It's funny. We gave some to my daughter's preschool class. Um, I just thought, why not? Because they all have to take their snacks. And the teacher sent me a photo the very next day. All the kids came out, thank you, Ryan's mom. And then the next day she sent me a picture. All the kids brought them, and all the parents were like, oh my gosh, now my older kid wants them. But they were so seeing them with their little snacks because it made it more fun for them.
It
So I'm
does.
like,
It's so much more
whatever gets the food gets
exciting.
attached.
Yep,
Right?
exactly.
For the picky ones. All right. So we've got a particular question with my child will not drink milk. What do I do?
Mm.
And
So this
I
is
offer the broccoli tops because that's what my pediatrician said. Plenty of calcium there. But I'm curious to hear what you have in this category.
Yeah, so I always tell people milk can be part of their diet after they're one, like cows or plant milk, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be. If they don't drink milk, there's other foods that are going to meet those same nutrients. So they still need protein. You can get protein so many ways. Protein is very rarely the one that people need to be concerned about because you get it so many ways. They can get calcium through other dairy products, or like you said, you can get it through broccoli. You can get it through different beans and legumes like hummus. There's so many calcium rich foods. You can get vitamin D, which comes in whole milk, but you can also get that through so many other ways. So if they don't drink milk, don't stress yourself over it. Don't make that a battle that doesn't need to be a battle. Just focus on, okay, well, how are we going to make sure they get an adequate amount of fat because they need that for brain development? What are the other options? And I have a whole post over on our page. I'll throw it up in our stories after this where you can swipe through and it's got all the nutrients that you need. And then it's got a big infographic of all the different foods that offer those same nutrients and how much is in each one. So you can kind of look at it and go, oh, well, we're getting enough calcium. Oh, okay, well, we're getting enough of this. And then it
Sure.
takes that worry down and you don't feel bad about the milk not being something that they drink.
All right. Good. I like it. um, all right. So frequent snacks, grazing, good idea. As opposed to kind of three squares. I think I read on your page 3 meals with 2 or 3 snacks, 2 to 3 hours apart, so you can make sure they're hungry, right?
Yes, you need that. It's just like napping. If you let them nap 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there
Yeah,
all day long, when you get to bedtime, they're not going to be tired because they've had so many tiny little naps. But if
sure.
you give them an adequate window to build an appropriate appetite, I'm not saying go, hours and hours between meals, 2 to 3 hours apart, and then give them an opportunity to eat. If they're not hungry now, well, there'll be another opportunity in another 2 to 3 hours. That's not too long that it's going to cause a problem, but it is long enough that they can build an appropriate appetite. When you switch into all day snacking and grazing, you run the risk of a choking hazard especially with little ones when they're running around eating, they could choke. If they're out of your sight, it's much more dangerous. You really want them seated at the table. And then also when they're snacking all day like that, as an adult, it's much harder to create balanced snacks all day every 15 minutes. When you only have to do it, 2 to 3 times a day, and it's going to be at this window, it's a lot easier to make a little bit more complex snack. You don't want to spend all day every 15 minutes cutting up strawberries. But if I only have to do it, every couple hours, it's a lot less of a burden as a parent. And that's kind of where you've got to find your balance.
Yeah. All right. What are your thoughts on dessert, offering dessert if they eat all their food? If they, I remember from childhood, clean your plate, that whole phrase. What do you,
Yes. So once you start using dessert as a reward, you really diminish the other foods and you bring that dessert up onto a pedestal. For us, when we serve desserts, I serve everything at the same time. If we're having cookies, there'll be a cookie on his plate. Now, that doesn't mean there's endless amounts of cookies. We've only got enough for everybody at that meal to say, let's say 3. Once you eat all of that, if you're still hungry, there's other food on your plate. We don't have desserts at every single meal. And I always tell parents, every family's entitled to their own dessert frequency of what makes you comfortable. Some people maybe have dessert once a week. Some people have it once a day, but it's important to not make it a reward because then the cookie is most important. And now every time they see broccoli, they're going to expect to get a cookie as a reward, and broccoli becomes lesser and lesser and the cookie gets higher and higher. But if you kind of bring them down to a level playing field and you put them all on one plate and serve them at the same time, it makes one less important than the other. but some parents have a hard time serving everything at the same time. And I grew up with the same, like, you got to clean your plate club.
Right.
And so for that, I always suggest just taking the contingencies off of it. Don't mention the cookies, don't bring it up, don't mention the ice cream. Have dinner, clean up. A little while later, everybody gets offered ice cream, everybody gets offered whatever. Just take away the contingencies of you have to eat this much to earn another food, because you also don't want to encourage them to learn to eat past being full to get a prize. If
Right.
you're hungry, there's enough meals and snacks served within a day to create balance. Even if you feel like, okay, this one meal was 2 cookies and 3 bites of sandwich, but the whole rest of the day is what you look at for that balance. So don't let that one meal just overcome you. It balances out.
Gotcha. Oh, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And it's an interesting, I'm going to try it, serving dessert with everything, or serving, the treat with everything.
It
And
feels weird and it's hard at first, and they
yeah,
will go for that first, but you'll start to notice it gets less and less important over time to them, because they know eventually I'm going to get it and I don't have to earn it. It's
right.
just going to be there.
So does your son go for the cookie first still?
Nope, we did it last night. Actually, it's kind of odd that you asked. We made cookies last night with pasta, and he sat down and started eating his pasta first, and then ate some of the cookie, and then ate a couple raspberries, and then ate a bite of broccoli, and was like bouncing back and forth between them, because
Gotcha.
to him, it's all just food.
Sure.
There's no prize.
Yeah, that's great. Makes sense. I like that little spin on it, making it psychology, the psychology of eating and the reward system that we grew up with.
Yep.
Like clean your plate or else no dessert. It's like, okay. And
Right.
sit there for hours. just it was a stubborn fest, really. Playing.
Yeah. Then it becomes a big game, and you're like,
Yeah, exactly.
it doesn't need to be this way.
Exactly. Just out of curiosity, we've addressed all the questions that came through. Do you have any go-tos? What I find is my struggle with grocery shopping, with feeding my kids, and then it ups at incredible levels when there are intolerances. Like we have a gluten intolerance as well as constipation issues. Do you have any foods go-tos that you think, in your experience, have been kind of kid approved that are easy on the palate and can help in either of those departments, like particularly the constipation? Because she's a picky eater because it hurts her tummy. Uh,
hmm And then, when you encourage them to keep eating and they're like, no, but like physically, I'm feeling so much discomfort. It's
yeah,
really looking at, are there certain foods that are bothering them? Milk and dairy products are very common, especially if you overdrink milk to cause constipation. And Jackson deals with constipation too. Every time he comes back home to me, we've got that problem again. So it's focusing on fiber-rich foods. Fruits and veggies are great. Water, whole grains are awesome. And then beans and legumes are also a great one. And like we talked about earlier, letting them sprinkle the hemp parts and the chia seeds to their heart's content, because those are going to help get things moving through there. And
okay.
water, water, water.
Yeah, yeah. We do a lot of water, but yeah, it's still okay. And then how are all? So I've seen. I mean, obviously, I'm in the gluten-free sections all the time, but are there like heroes and kind of less desirable heroes when it comes to gluten-free options for our kids? Because you see in every store they're getting bigger and bigger sections.
Yeah, it is. I wouldn't really say that there are. I mean, you get most of the information you need from the back of the package. Everything on the front of the package that you're looking at is created by a marketing team who wants to
Hmm.
sell you that product. You really
Sure.
want to look at the back and look for things that have less sugar. So a lot of different, especially with breads and baked goods, there's going to
Yeah.
be a lot of added sugar. So looking for the ones that have the least amount of added sugar is really important. But when you're working with intolerances, sometimes you've just got to use what works,
Yeah.
because there are getting to be more and more, but that doesn't mean there's a ton. So if you find a gluten-free cracker that works in your family, I always say, go with that. If you find another one that you want to try it. But, using what works for your family and what they can eat is almost the most important part.
Awesome. Well, super insightful, very helpful. Love the hacks. I loved your site. Checked it out, and it's really really cool. So I suggest everyone go check her out at Snacks with Jax, and that's JAX, which is super cool.
Yeah,
So
thank you. I thought I
so
was being original. Everyone named their child that too. So not cool.
I love it, right? I know one other Jax, not so many. One other
Okay,
Jax,
good, 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 good.
but it's Jackson with an O-N, right? Jackson?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
cool. Well, I appreciate it, Sarah. Really helpful today, super exciting. And thank you for doing what you do to help all of us parents who are doing the best we can with, I feel like every time I go grocery shopping, I come back with really good lunches and snacks and like no meals.
I totally get that. I'm either I do that or I come back with all dinner stuff and I'm like, we're just gonna have
Yeah,
leftovers for lunch, okay? We'll be fine.
right.
So,
It's so true. But we do the best we can.
exactly. We're just improving.
We are. We're total improv, winging it. All right. Well, thank you. Anyone who has questions or wants to check out all the good stuff that Sarah's bringing, please visit her at Snacks with Jax. Thank you for joining us for our Toolbox series. We appreciate it. And yeah, we'll catch up again.
Sounds
It was
good.
fun.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you. Bye, Sarah.
Bye.